Here's 5 things that help me with autistic burnout. Number 1, sensory input. I'm starting with this one because it is the most important in my opinion. You haven't just got those 5 senses you were taught at school, you've also got your vestibular, your interoceptive, and your proprioceptive senses. And the first thing that tends to go when you're autistic is your interoceptive sense. So what we find is that you become a lot more alexithymic when you're burnt out, which can actually make it harder to get the rest you need because you can't feel the burnout in the same way that you would if you weren't burnt out. It's kind of a catch-22, really. But what I would say is that, if you want your interoceptive sense to get better, you have to do things that engage the body. So you're looking for your proprioceptive stuff, the stuff that tells you where you are in space, how your body is moving. If you can start relating those senses into something tangible, it'll help with your interoceptive sense. Beyond this, something that helps me is I like to have a dark room with pretty lights, star projectors. I use an oil diffuser with diluted oils for a nice smell, and, soothing sounds. You want a good sensory diet. The next one I'm going to talk about is nesting. Now, I've written about this on my blog, but when I'm talking about nesting, it's almost like what stimpunks would call a Cavendish space. So it's a space where you are safe, where you can get into that monotropic flow state. And for me, it usually involves, having everything I need around me so that I can get comfortable and not have to do a lot of moving around to get what I need. So literally building a physical nest. Beyond that, the space also has to be a safe sensory space. So we go back to that first point, sensory is really important. But also, I would say it has to be a space where you can have good boundaries, and we'll come back to boundaries in a minute. But you've got to be able to say, this is a space where I will not have intrusions from the outside world when I don't want them. So, as promised, boundaries. You've got to be able to say no. Now, this can be difficult because some of us live with people or are exposed to people who don't care about our boundaries. But what I'm talking about here is we have to know what our strengths and struggles are. We have to know what it is that we need to get through life. And the boundaries we have in place need to complement those strengths and struggles. So, we've got to be able to say no. We've got to be able to say yes as well. We've got to be able to make space for ourselves, because without that space for ourselves, we're not going to recover from burnout. Number 4 is another important one, and it's related to boundaries, especially if you are surrounded by people who don't care about your boundaries. Trust yourself, okay? People will try and gaslight you, they will invalidate you. It's just unfortunately part of being autistic. But in all truth, we have to trust ourselves when it comes to matters pertaining to us. So if we feel we cannot manage something, don't let another person convince you that you're wrong about that. It doesn't make you worth any less just because you say, I can't do something. Nobody can do everything, so do what you can when you can, and trust that you know what's best. The final point I'm going to make, number 5, is about slow and planned transitions. Autistic people do not cope well with going in and out rapidly from different tasks and demands. So what you really want to do is, plan those transitions. So know what activity you're doing and think, right, how am I going to prepare myself to slowly transition from this activity into something different? And part of that transition has to be, if you need a break, transition into rest, because we are allowed to rest. We do not have to be productive all the time. More than anything, be kind to yourself, because when we're autistic and burnt out, we can feel very worthless because society values productivity over human well-being. But the truth is that even when you're doing nothing, you still have value. You have a place in this world, and you deserve that place in this world. So don't let anyone tell you that needing to take a break is wrong.